sometimes people will make an acquisition because it's simpler to get into a new area. If it's a new technology, there's this debate, well, do I build it, and what happens if it doesn't work? Whereas if there's something that's already out there and I can buy it, I can incorporate it right into my business today, that's clearly one reason for an acquisition. Another reason is to get into new markets, whether it's domestic, whether it's international. I think we're all in an environment where cost is very important. And so if you can make an acquisition in a similar type business, and then the synergies you can achieve in merging the two entities together. But I have to caution you that when we build the business models that say we're going to get 20% savings, it's always interesting to go back and look at that model 2 or 3 years later and say, boy, was I optimistic, or where did I go wrong? So, you know, it's great to think of it and see how you can layer it out, but it doesn't always materialize, and so that's where an integration plan is so very important in making an acquisition.
The first one was having a step function in revenue. When you think about increasing revenue, there are a lot of ways to do it. We do a lot of it through new product development, but that's a long process because you're starting from zero and you're hoping that something's going to take in the market. When you make an acquisition, you have a step function in revenue, which is terrific for your margins, terrific for your bottom line. The second reason that we look at as being attractive is to consolidate distribution. In our case, having more sales with a given distributor gives us more clout when we go and we talk to them about white space, about space on their websites, and so on. I touched on having gross margin. That's the third reason. Just gaining gross margin is a great reason to do an acquisition. And then gross margin yields you secondary benefits as well, which are important to an organization. You can afford better management. You can afford to pay your management more, and you can also specialize. I mean, we had a case for a period of time where our chief financial officer was also our IT manager, and by growing our company through acquisition, we were able to split those functions in two and get a good IT guy and keep our financial guy doing what he does best. And then finally, I think acquisitions keep it fun. I think it challenges the troops, and we've had a lot of success with acquisitions, getting everybody pumped up in the organization because it's all hands on deck. Everybody's got to be thinking about what we have to do to make the acquisition happen, and everyone's proud of the fact after we bring a company in-house and we integrate it, and so I think that's not to be overlooked.
The principal drivers, obviously, for companies to acquire is that their existing businesses are not growing as quickly as they would like. Maybe they are the dominant player or they're one of the two, and market share gain is increasingly more difficult. They realize, okay, for us to really grow the business, we really need to look beyond what we're doing right now and maybe say, okay, what are the tangentially related businesses that overlaps well with customer base, distribution base, supplier base, will really help us to augment growth. So, you know, I look forward to providing actual examples of clients that has been very successful with us in terms of doing serial acquisitions for the last 12 years. And I also have one client that we worked with for a number of years that was unsuccessful, and there's lessons learned from that engagement.
Focusing for a second on the sell side, sometimes you've got a constituency that's driving it inside the organization, whether it's an investor group or maybe there's an intergenerational issue. It's a family-owned or closely held business, and it's time to, you know, transition that, and it doesn't go very well, just handing it off to the next generation, so you have to sell. So you know, I was involved in the sale of a fairly prominent grocery store chain here in the New England area. That was quite an interesting three-ring circus. That was exactly that situation. You know, there are lots of reasons why a constituency might push for an exit or a sale to get liquidity. The issue then becomes, well, you know, you, if you're the CEO or the other person in a position of prominence in that acquisition process, you need to find a way to manage that so that expectations are reasonable and met, and that you minimize litigation going forward.
My experience in acquisitions has been from the buy side and from the insider perspective, not from an advisory consultant. I think all these are excellent points that you're hearing. I'm a big proponent of the why to investigate an acquisition. Obviously, an acquisition can get you these results, certainly, but the downside is if it's not done properly, it can be very costly, and again, it can be an unsuccessful strategy. But if it's the right strategic fit, and you've done the homework and done all the right due diligence before you kind of jump in with 2 feet, but I think the acquisition model has a lot of rewards to be gained.